his career. Time's close to the end here at the age of 43. Not obviously is Tua Tagovailoa. Picked 5th overall. They tanked for Tua. Didn't really have to. Played well second half of the season. Got him at the 5th overall pick. Yet to play a snap. Head coach Brian Flores says when they take on the San Francisco 49ers, who have quarterback issues of their own, on Sunday, that'll be by the Bay, that Fitzpatrick is going to start. I think you know what you have in Fitzpatrick. The Dolphins are struggling again. But here's the issue for me, and maybe you can kind of take us inside this as a player and what gets out and what doesn't. The whole issue with Tua is simple. Nobody knows how healthy he is. Like, that's the whole thing. Like, I understand they're struggling, throw Tua out there. He's got to learn somehow. Nobody can definitively tell you, outside of the organization, there is no one that can tell you how healthy he is.
And that's true outside the organization, but the organization knows how healthy he is. And so I would lean on the organization to make a decision on when to play Tua. And when you look at it, I said from the beginning of the season, it's the 5th to 6 week game that you start thinking about playing Tua. Right now that you go up against the San Francisco 49ers, this may be a time without the Bosa's of the world to take a look at that and see if you want to put him in, depending on how the game goes. And I was looking at their schedule. You got a Von Miller-less Denver Broncos after that. Yep. You have the Chargers defense, which is good. And then you go up against the Rams, the Cardinals, and the Jets. Mm-hmm. I like to get a guy in sooner rather than later if I've already made my decision that Fitzpatrick is not the guy, right? You make that decision. He's a stopgap. He's going to teach him how to study in the pros. He's going to be there to pat the guy on the back when he comes off the field on a bad series or two. That's what he's there for. So at some point here in the next couple games, you've got to strongly think about inserting Tua into the lineup so he can get some reps. And now when you get to the back end of that schedule and that schedule gets tougher and you face some of those tough defenses, you now have a guy who understands the speed of the game is not too fast for him. It's slowed down a little bit. Throwing him out there to the Wolves at the end of the season to get 3 games in, you don't want to do that to a young quarterback. You want to let him take his lumps for a couple weeks, let things smoothen out for him. So now he understands the defenses that they're trying to run at him. He gets it. And he becomes a better player for you the following year. That's just my observation on it. Now, they can do whatever the hell they want.
That they can. Keyshawn J. Will Zubin, presented by Progressive Insurance, with insurance for cars, homes, boats, motorcycles, RVs, and commercial vehicles at 1-800-PROGRESSIVE and Progressive.com. From a wide receiver standpoint, take me inside, right? I love saying that. Take me inside.
Take me inside. It's about $12 in jar, but okay.
It is a crutch phrase for me, but he's the future of the franchise. Everybody says he spins such an incredible ball when he was at Alabama. If you're a wide receiver and this is my guy, at some point, sooner rather than later, this is my guy, and you're going to get what I like to call the Fitzpatrick fade, right? He always starts pretty well, and it's a great story. We hear about the 8 kids and the beard and the Harvard. It comes up every single year. And then he's like, oh, that's right. He's Ryan Fitzpatrick. Nothing against him. But as a wide receiver, if you've got somebody like that that's ready to go, do you kind of salivate? Like, if you watch him at practice, they used to say this about Mahomes, like, bro, I know this guy ain't going to play. You got to watch this dude at practice. Alex Smith is good. This dude is something else. As a wideout, is there something about kind of seeing the pretty ball, knowing that I could be on the receiving end of this sooner rather than later?
Absolutely. You want to have balls thrown to you like handoffs, meaning you're next to a guy, even though he's throwing, 20 yards down the field, he just handed them to you. You don't want to have to make all these adjustments, tweak your back, turn it around. I don't want that. I want a guy who is very accurate and knows how to deliver the football with rhythm, precise, not knuckleballs, breaking my fingers. You want a guy like Tua. I never really looked at quarterbacks like that. I just said, whoever it is, I'm fine with it. But as I got to get guys like Vinny Testaverde and Brad Johnson, opposed to some of the other ones, it was like I died and went to heaven, right? It was like, whoo, because the ball, you could see it coming off their hand. I mean, you could see it coming out. And when you see it coming out, you can make the necessary adjustments, not only with your hands and eyes, but with your mind on how you want to catch it, what you want to do with it beforehand, because the ball's going to be right in a place where you can catch it and run. That's extremely important for receivers. When you talk about yak yards, it's about catching it. If I got to adjust to every damn ball.
Yards after catch. Yak yards. If I got to adjust to every ball, Zubin, I'm not able to catch it, tuck it, and run. If I got to turn around, by the time I turn and twist my back and catch it, just like that, the defense is on me.
But if I get it right in my hands, I could tuck it, stiff arm. I could do a lot of different things with it. And Tua, with his accuracy, will give the Miami Dolphins that.
We're in our final minute. Joe Burrow is playing for a team that hasn't won a playoff game in 30 years. Justin Herbert got in there under the strangest of circumstances, looked great. In any way, shape, or form, did the Dolphins just say, this ain't Carson Palmer, John Kitna, man. We can't just sit this guy forever. We got to get him out there. And our contemporaries, guys that pick quarterbacks in this draft, I know you have to do what's best for your organization. But when you see the relative success these two guys are having, especially Burrow and Herbert, considering the circumstances, it makes you think twice.
Well, you can't look at those guys, right? Those guys, not necessarily Cincinnati, but the Chargers are kind of in that fight.
This year, IR means a minimum of 3 games. Obviously, this is an Achilles injury, but just if your favorite player, your team is an injury, and the guy is on IR, remember, he could return as early as 3 weeks. So let's get into the conversation here. This is obviously a season-ending injury. Tom Brady doesn't have any lack of pass catchers. Chris Godwin, though, has been banged up. Let's be honest, Rob Gronkowski has not really given the Bucs what they were expecting. Arians has said he's been a good blocker. I don't know if it's a nice way of saying I'm not exactly sure what's going on with Rob Gronkowski. What does this injury mean for the Bucs with regard to their Super Bowl hopes?
Well, it takes one of their big weapons away that had chemistry going with Tom Brady. He's the third leading target guy in terms of targets and receptions. When you think about Scotty Miller, who's more of a slot Edelman type guy than Mike Evans, and then O.J. Howard falls into that. We all know that Tom Brady loves his tight ends because they're big in between the numbers for him. If you go back to the late Aaron Hernandez along with Gronkowski, pair those two up, the things that they were able to do.
Right.
It doesn't derail them. It just hurts a little bit for him not to have that security blanket. You mentioned Gronkowski. He's not the same Gronkowski. Now, maybe in week 12, he becomes something. He's in shape. He could do some things. He gets in the playoff form, and he becomes playoff Gronkowski, possibly. Maybe. But in terms over the course of the season, it's a big blow to the Tampa Bay Bucs to miss O.J. Howard. O.J. Howard was coming in to his own with Tom Brady.
This may sound strange because it's not a top-of-mind issue, but it is something to think about. What does it mean for O.J. Howard? And I don't mean just not playing, but the ability to have that full year with a guy like Tom Brady. I mean, it just seems like it could have been a PhD for him.
Well, it's Tom Brady. It's the second time around in Bruce Arians and Byron Leftwich's system.
Right.
It's learning from Gronkowski, who's a future Hall of Famer, can teach him a lot of little things on how to do certain things, of whether it's blocking or catching passes. You miss all of that. And who knows what happens next year with Gronkowski? Who knows what happens next year with Tom Brady? Yeah. Maybe Brady says, I don't want to play next year. I'm done now. I mean, it's a shame, and I'm sure he'll have full recovery and be back trying to get to his old self. But Achilles injuries are real tough.
He does have a 2-year, $50 million contract, does Tom Brady. But obviously, as we know, everything is year to year. Is he the difference between them getting to the Super Bowl and not? Does he have that sort of impact? I know you said it's going to alter it a little bit.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't necessarily have the impact of getting to the Super Bowl, but it has an impact on how they want to run their offense.
Okay.
When Brady has 2 tight end sets, that he's comfortable with O.J. Howard, even though he knows Gronkowski, O.J. Howard can stretch the defense where Gronkowski can't anymore. O.J. Howard can run crisp routes and be in position to catch balls where Gronkowski can't anymore. It's a different tight end situation. You can flex him out. He can also play a receiver position for you if you need him to. He was learning how to become more of a dominant blocker. It's a blow to their offense.
Tampa Bay, again, will kick off week 5 this season. They'll take on the Chicago Bears.
That's a win.
In Chicago tomorrow.
That's a win. Nick Foles is the quarterback.
Hey, it's Tom Brady versus Nick Foles again. Remember what happened the last time?
Oh, God. What are they going to come up with, a Chicago special?
Philly special work. There's not much special happening in Chicago, Key. I think that's pretty obvious at this point. On the other end, a quarterback that's just now beginning his career. Time's close to the end here at the age of 43.